Hi everybody, this is Alex and this is my Module 4 presentation on STEM resources. So starting first with the book. This is absolutely one of my favorite books that I have read as a teacher. It is called Bold School by Weston Kieschnick. And if anybody ever is able to attend a conference with Weston Kieschnick, I highly recommend it. So this is the book right here that I have read, and this is another book that he's written with his wife. I have not read that. So really the term bold school comes from the combination of blended learning and old school wisdom, which makes bold school. So Weston's book combines traditional teaching strategies with new technologies, and he even tells you what specific tech tools work well for specific teaching strategies and ties it all into John Hattie's visible learning. Okay, so technically this is not a STEM book, but I found it more than worthy to include in my STEM resources because it truly has helped me immensely in the past 2 years. So one thing I noticed through the past modules while we were looking for STEM lessons and reading about STEM identities is the number one thing that was usually missing from STEM was technology. And I noticed that in my own teaching, the one thing that's usually missing is the technology piece. And is this because teachers find themselves overwhelmed with the thought of technology? Because I know that before reading this book, that was me. And Bold School made me much more confident with using technology. And if you're struggling with that aspect of STEM, I highly recommend this book. It's great to keep on your bookshelf to look back at if you're struggling with technology, which is a huge part of STEM. And how it relates to STEM identity is I'm a more confident technology user and I'm more willing to use technology with my students. So the movie I decided to review was October Sky. And I remember seeing this movie actually when I was really little. So it was fun to kind of go back and see it again. So the movie is based on a true story about a young man, Homer Hickman, who's played by Jake Gyllenhaal, who is supposed to follow in his father's footsteps as a coal miner. Unapprovingly, Homer and his friends start building rockets, even though they have no support from their families or their town, just their teacher. After trial and error, the rocket goes on to win a national science fair, and Homer eventually becomes an engineer for NASA. So I think this true story truly embodies perseverance and stamina through frustration because they didn't have any support. They did not succeed right away. And I think that's something we should all aim to teach our students. It's not only a great story about historical engineering and scientific events, but also a great message to always follow your dreams. And how it relates to STEM identity is it is a lesson for students about growth mindset. And it's also a true story about a small town rural boy who grows up to become an engineer, which can be very relatable to some of our students, and including real life stories may help them see that it's possible for them to be an engineer. The podcast I chose is called STEM Every Day by Chris Woods. This podcast was started by Chris, who is a high school math teacher, and it offers research-based but practical ideas for becoming a better STEM educator. The podcast currently has 205 episodes that range in topics from current events in STEM, new technology tools, women in STEM, and engaging in different strategies. This podcast does not just focus on one particular aspect of STEM, but a large range of things, which is why I chose this one over some of the others that I found. And it's also heavily geared toward educators. And since most of us are educators, I thought it would be beneficial. This podcast could help change your own teacher focus about STEM, which would then be projected onto your students, which would help their STEM identities. And the last one was place. I chose the Whitaker Center for the Science and the Arts in Harrisburg. I've been there a ton of times since I've been little. However, the aspect I chose to focus on was the STEM Design Studio, which is actually closed to the public from June 19th through August 14th for summer camps. However, I thought a STEM Design Studio was perfect to include in this presentation. So the lab allows for hands-on inquiry-based exploration, and it actually offers different challenges where groups will have to design, test, and improve their design to meet the challenge requirements. These activities range from 3D printing to coding and robotics, and there is a science center there with different exhibits that center around physical, biological, and life sciences. So I thought this was really cool because as teachers, we're typically the ones that are designing engineering design challenges. However, the STEM Design Studio offers a place where we can go to work through the engineering design process ourselves. So it's kind of like we get to be the students. And how this relates to STEM identity is through the STEM Design Studio, you will gain more confidence in the engineering design process to strengthen your STEM identity. Okay, I ran a little over time. I tried to talk really fast, but thank you for listening, and I hope you check out some of my recommendations.